Welcome back to another episode of Buffalo Happy Hour. Mike, what's going on?
Oh, Derek, we are joined by our new friend and guest, and it is a Zoom this time. So we'll start with introductions and titles, if they do so exist, and then we'll dive into all things nonprofit.
All things nonprofit. I feel like that was a big send up. My name is Beth Slazak. I'm with the Creative Education Foundation. I am the Director of Programs and Education, and I know all things nonprofit, definitely. All the information that I give you is totally legit. Just don't Google it.
Just don't look it up.
So, I love it.
What brought you into nonprofits?
Like most adults, I fell on my face into this and had no idea, not expecting. This is what my life is going to be. And then this is what my life really is. That was for the audio people that were listening. Direct quote. I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, ended up getting divorced, getting a career, decided to become a social studies teacher, and needed to get a master's for New York State. And I'd had to go back to school. The difference of having an undergrad in history versus being a social studies teacher was there was like another year that I had to take classes and do things. So by that time, I'm like a single mom in my mid-30s, and some of those classes that I had to take were like Poli-Sci 101 and Economics 101, and I was going to have to kill myself if I had to sit next to another totally hungover 18-year-old. So when I was looking for masters, I came across a list that listed Buffalo State's Creativity and Change Leadership as an option. So I went through that. I was doing long-term sub, and I would help at different creativity conferences. And one of them was the Creative Problem Solving Institute, CPSI or CPSI, held by the Creative Education Foundation. And I was a volunteer leader for 3 years. Then I started doing their logistics. So I was like part-time, and then they grew large enough that they were able to hire me full-time. And that's how I direct path, completely on purpose, got into this.
Yeah. I feel like those stories are very common, especially with nonprofits, is because you just have that, I don't know, it's like this drive that's in you that wants to get into there, but it doesn't know that it wants to get into that field.
Oh, I like that. My son works in nonprofit. He's a program director for YMCA, and his degree is in international Middle Eastern studies. He speaks Arabic. And after graduation, the job he had lined up fell through. So he started subbing back at his high school, and he's like, hey, I like working with youth. And
that's just how it works. Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding. So your title one more time from the very beginning?
Director of Programs and Education.
So what specific programs do you work in?
Programs that I run, we've got an educator tracked program. We've partnered with another nonprofit, and we do virtual sessions related to creative problem solving for educators. Any New York State educators that take it, we are CTLE certified, which is the New York State Teachers Continuing Ed, and they need to get like 500 hours or something like that. But, you know, it's virtual, so anyone in the world can take it. In fact, we had, this woman who's like in Germany take those sessions.
Oh, wow.
She found us, and she's actually reached out for like some other session information. That's fantastic. So anyway, educator program, we do a lot of training and working with organizations, but we also run training conferences. So we've got the Creative Problem Solving Institute that's held in June at Niagara University in Western New York. And then we've got another training conference in Sarasota in March at the Ringling College. So those programs, all of our virtual training, we do Being Creative on Purpose 4 times a year. That's open to people. We do a lot of on-demand virtual training for anybody that, like, organizations or companies. So we've got Leveling Up Your Virtual Team. We've got Crush Your Communications. So we've got all of those virtual programs. We call them workshops for everyone. And you can just be like, hey, I have a couple people, we would like to do this. And we're like, awesome, let's pick a date. We also are working on creative problem solving for entrepreneurs. So that's a new, we've just started talking with some different entrepreneur groups, because like the beauty of creative problem solving is it is for people who have problems and challenges. So if you don't have a problem or a challenge, you don't need this. But also then I have some questions.
Right.
I'm like, hear more about your problem-free life.
Yeah. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Absolutely doesn't exist.
So yeah, go on. So we're working with entrepreneurs because they have specific types of challenges, and we're involved in that entrepreneurial era. Like I attend Rochester Open Coffee Club, which is for entrepreneurs. I was really good before the pandemic going to Buffalo one, but that's a gathering place for startups. And we like to be supportive because we can teach people a process that helps them go through their problems faster, more deliberate. And entrepreneurs need to get through those challenges quickly. And they need to, a lot of times when we're talking with people, we're like, okay, so you know how you like keep trying to solve that problem over and over again? You're not solving that problem. You may be dealing with effects of that problem.
Sure.
Like you can take as much Tylenol for your headache as you want, like every day that you need to, or you can go to the eye doctor and get a new prescription for your glasses. One of them solves your problem, another solves your symptoms. So if you're dealing with the same problems over and over again, you're probably dealing with symptoms and not the problem. So let me teach you a way to dig down deep into what the real problem is. Entrepreneurs need to get there faster because their dreams are riding on it.
Sure.
Now, what's an example of a problem that you've helped solve?
Oh, well,
that of course is, within confidentiality and things like that. Broad stroke.
I worked with factory floor people where they wanted to improve their flow of product. So ended up redesigning where all the things go so they can get it through faster and safer. Factories are concerned with that. We've worked with elementary school reading specialists for helping increase engagement with their students. It was such a fantastic, we taught this tool called Empathy Map, which looks at, people will use it. This is video, so I'm gonna draw a thing because it looks.
If you're not watching on YouTube, go watch on YouTube because she's doing drawings now.
So like this is what an empathy map looks like, and this is the thing. So and then you do like what they see, what they hear, what they say, what they think.
Sure.
Things, those types of things. So it gets used in all kinds. That's a beauty. A lot of these tools can be used in all kinds of ways. So she was using it as an assessment for reading comprehension. They were reading a version of Three Little Pigs.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were doing like the Three Little Pigs, and she did this whole empathy map with them. And all, she's like, it was beautiful. In the middle of it, she was like, we need to do this from the wolf side too. So she had them create empathy maps from the pigs and from the wolf. And then they were able to use that for conflict management with kids in the classroom, because then you see there's always two sides.
Oh, okay.
And you get this understanding, like, the pigs don't want to be eaten. However, honestly, the wolf is hungry, and pig is what it normally eats. So those kinds of things.
That's pretty interesting because you kind of have to have some sort of understanding of psychology and stuff too, like how people's mind works to understand what problems they need to be solved and how they can best solve them, right?
This field, the whole field of deliberate creativity, comes from the APA conference in like the 1950s. Guilford, who was the president of the American Psychology Association, was like, we need to start we've been concentrating about what's wrong with people. We need to also start looking at what's right. So you get a whole like positive psychology flow from that. And he's like, we need to start understanding creativity more, because a lot of people believe that it's akin to magic. Poof, I'm creative. No, if you're a grown adult, you have been creative because you have put together an outfit that you like. You have made a meal out of 7 weird things. You have figured out a new way to drive home from a place. Like, we solve challenges in novel and useful ways every single day. People are creative. They can just learn to be more creative. Creativity it's not a magic and a talent, it's a skill. It's like driving. Once you figure out how to drive, you can drive a Ford and then drive a Jeep.
Sure.
So,
have you ever been to reading lab or a reading class when you were in elementary school?
No.
Okay, so I have, and it was second grade that I had to go to reading lab, and I always hated it. And my mother was always pushing me to read, and she goes, you're going to have to understand this and do this throughout your entire life. Like, just figure it out. And I used to get super mad, where the one thing that I remember about reading lab, and again, this is legitimately second grade, is the reading lab teacher sat us down and she goes, okay, I want you to read this sentence. And I would read the sentence. And she goes, okay, I want you to take that sentence and I want you to write the first word of the sentence. So I'd write it. And then she goes, now verbally tell me the next 3 words in that same sentence. And for the first month, I couldn't do it. And she goes, it's important for you to not just remember one word, but to remember the next 3 for your own recall. And it'll also help you understand and comprehend more of what you're reading so that you're digesting what you're reading. You're not just reading each individual word as it comes to you, face value, when your eyes are scrolling left to right on the page. And I'm learning this in second grade. And for me, it was unbelievably fascinating. So to hear what the empathy map is, I understand, conceptually, I get it. I feel like that exercise would be vital when you're in elementary school, just because from a sensory overload standpoint, you're being introduced with so much in your life, and then now that it's being hammered at the level that it is, this is probably the one time where I'm fully okay with my tax dollars going towards the one thing that I don't have a say in, where it's education. There's nothing wrong with having an educated society, and hearing about the evolutions from what I went through in elementary school to now. I mean, I've been removed from school for it's close to a decade, right? So it's
over a decade.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see how it's evolving. So I mean, what else? Now I feel like I'm a sponge. Where I'm just what else are you doing? How else are you impacting the community? Because I feel like there's been so many evolutions since I've been removed that I don't even know what's happening now. And what we hear is our friend group and then other parents are talking about how their children are learning things that we learned, 4 years ahead of where our kids are at. So it's how am I as a parent supposed to solve these problems when I'm dude, this is calc. Why are you learning this in elementary school? Can you touch on that piece?
Calculus for kindergartners. Yeah. Well, so I don't have a lot of say over curriculum. What we do is we just support teachers. Not to nerd out on you, but I am what I am. People always talk about children are so creative, and they are. And what we mean by that is they see endless possibilities. You go into a kindergarten classroom and you're like, who's going to be an astronaut? Me. All right, who's an artist? Me. They're everything. They are everything. Around fourth grade, there is the fourth grade slump. And I'm sure you can Google that term because we studied that in grad school. That understanding and that living in all of the possibilities at once drops, because that's around the time that we've got to get more concrete in certain things to help our society. We have all agreed that this is how certain words are spelled. So we try to stick as closely to that so that we can communicate in a written way. We have all agreed that 1 + 3 needs to equal 4 because we have a commercial society that needs to be able to have transactions, financial transactions. What we do a lot with teachers is help them then recover that swing back up so that when they get further along and then graduate, you go out to your job, you spend 12 years like, this is the right answer. You need to find the right answer. Don't share your work. Don't copy. Okay, now that you've graduated and you're at work, there is no right answer. We need you to figure this out and you need to work with the team. And people are like, kill me now. So we're trying to help like that fourth grade where we need to understand 1 + 3 = 4. I'm going to do it again. But 1 + 3 can also equal 13 or capital B.
Sure.
Because we need to have that flexibility of thought, seeing more than one way something could be done, or the fluency of thought. There are multiple ways to do this, because that's what you need to be a grown-up. I think that's the secret to successful adulting.
Okay, so I know that we're new friends.
Questioning eyebrows.
Yeah, so one thing you need to know about me is I'm really black and white, and I'm really bad at math.
So not creative.
So this is where Derek laughs. Okay, so 1 + 3 should never equal B in my head. Like, red flags went up. So like, and I understand you're talking about thinking outside the box. It can mean more than one thing. So like 1 + 3 should equal D, right? Because D is like the fourth letter of the alphabet.
No,
like, is
so
that
there's
what
the-
we're kind
there's
of?
the
Oh my
line.
gosh,
There's-
I love that so much. Yes.
But there's the line of the 1, and if you move the line to the 1 close to the 3, then it equals the B, like all together. That's what
Okay,
she's saying.
and then 13 is 1 and 3 together. I
Correct.
understand. Okay,
Correct.
they're a match made in heaven.
Yes.
Understood. Okay. However, you
I'm
can't.
going to add that letter D now because, yes, the minute you said it, I'm like, of course.
Right.
Sure,
But
yeah.
Tuesdays is also blue. Like,
Yeah, it's very interesting when we talk about, curriculum and then what's happening in Mike's world, because that's when
different.
that's when Derek sits down and he's like, "Sweetheart, let me help you." So,
come here. I got you. We'll work this out.
yeah.
I'm also going to share something with me. When people find out that I work in creativity, they're like, oh, thinking outside the box, which is a paradigm that we understand means like looking at things differently. And it's the one that I hate the most, because I think like, if you can think outside the box, to me, that also can mean like no restrictions. And if you have no restrictions, you don't need as much creativity. So like the Kardashians, when they're trying to figure out what to have for dinner, it's whatever. A single mom that has 4 kids and she's trying to figure out what's for dinner, like the fact that she literally makes a meal out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, that is creativity, because that's when, so brainstorming has a bad rep. People are like, everything doesn't matter. Brainstorming is half of a tool. It's like if you had a car that only had a gas pedal. I mean, you'd go far, but you might run into trouble. You need to have, that's brainstorming is divergent thinking. It's getting all of the, because you want all of the idea. I talk about it as Divergent thinking, brainstorming, it's like trick or treating. Your goal is to get all the candy. You want to come home Halloween night with a bag that is so heavy you can barely drag it in. And that's the first thing that you do. You flip that bag over and you start sorting it. Here's the things that my mom thinks are poisoned. It's probably not, but whatever. Here's the things that are disgusting that I'm going to trade with my younger sibling because they don't know any better. Here's like the caramels, here's the chewies. Like we sort based on our criteria. We converge on what we need, what we want. And that's brainstorming is the divergent. Then you need that convergence, turning, what we have. Oh, we've got a budget. Okay, so how do we make this budget neutral? We've only got mustard and saltines. How do we make a great dinner? Well, magic. We'll make mustard saltine soup. It'll be fine. Don't do that. That sounds disgusting.
Yeah, it sounds gross.
But like that we want to start with divergent because we want possibility and innovative, but then we need to go to convergent to refine it into something better. And that's the inside the box thinking that we deal with. If finances and physics aren't a thing, awesome. It's probably going to be really easy to solve your challenge. However, for most of us, finances and physics are for real. And we have to obey the time-space continuum. And we have to answer to our boss about how much it's going to cost. So then you use that CPS process, that creative problem solving process, to deal with like inside that criteria.
So when you're talking about harvesting these creative tools that people have, we hear a lot, obviously Mike said earlier, that kids are more creative than we are just because they don't have the structure and confines to relate things to actual things that are happening, I guess. So I remember looking at this viral picture that went around of a school bus that was just a plain school bus, and they asked adults what way the school bus is going, and nobody knew because it wasn't a very descriptive picture of the bus. It was just like a blank outline of the bus, and adults were like, I don't know, like it can go either way. And the kid was, the fourth graders or whatever it was like, the bus is going left because we can't see the door to get onto the bus. The bus is on the other side, so we know that it's going the other way. And everyone's like, what do you, like, how do you even come up with that? So from your aspect, is there kind of a golden age to get people to either continue to harvest their creative tools, or maybe it's easier to impose creativity on these people because they're a certain age group, or does it not even matter?
It doesn't matter. The difference is practice. It's like a sport. The more you practice it, the better you get at it.
Okay.
So we have what we call trained brains, and there's a large creativity community, and people will put out a call. They're like, I need some trained brains for an ideation. So I need like just lots of ideas. My client is they're gonna shop what they need, but I want to give them 5,000 options. So that's like, the more you practice it, the better you get it. The higher your fluency gets, the larger your frequency gets. So like, I taught incoming freshmen at Buff State for a long time on this, and we would do like, what might be all the uses for a pencil? And that's a really common one. If you've been to school, like you probably have bumped across that. And what I would see with my incoming freshmen is they would come up with like 5 or 6 things. One of them was to write with. If there were people who had long hair, they may have had to put your hair up because like you do the little thingy.
Sure.
Shove it in a bun. If I asked someone who's been practicing thinking with a deliberate creativity mindset, they could come up with probably 100 in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Because they are not the way the kindergartners are, the younger students are, they're not limiting what a pencil is. So when I say, what might be all the uses of a pencil, you're thinking of like a number 2 pencil. It's about this, 8 inches long. It may be sharpened at the one end. Well, I didn't say that. You put that on it. Maybe the pencil is the size of a forest, and one of the things that you could do with it is build a log cabin. Or maybe they're super tiny and you're going to use them for like really fun canapes because you're having a back to school charcuterie and you want little like toothpick pencils. And all of the different things the more you practice it, the less limitations you put on at the start so that you can go later and put on limitations and figure out what works best. And you can evaluate those limitations to see if they're real or you can get around them.
Sure.
Hmm.
That's fascinating.
I love education. I do, because it's so broad and there's so many things that we can dive into. So specifically your nonprofit dives into supporting teachers. That's what you said.
That is one of the things that we do. We support, our mission is to ignite creativity worldwide, to give people the skill set, tool set, and mindset they need to deal with challenges in their life. Weirdly enough, an organization called the Creative Education Foundation, we haven't started working explicitly in schools until like maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
So was it all entrepreneurs or like different focus groups before moving into schools?
Well, before, pretty much, I'm speaking about like in the world before I was involved in it. Like, I know they did some like consultant work, primarily when I started being involved with CEF. It was the one conference, Creative Problem Solving Institute. We did SIPSI, and people would come from all over the world and from all different fields to learn how to solve problems. Now we do a lot more with specific groups and organizations and communities. The pad I've been using is for a nonprofit that's in Georgia that supports community involvement. So they do like out of school and after school programming, but they also do like addiction stuff. We're working with them. I love it's Guide, GUIDE, and it's all caps. They're one of our favorite partners to work with, and we're doing a creative leadership cohort for other people who are in nonprofits that they deal with to help them be creative leaders and to look at challenges in a different way, and like their types of challenges that they deal with. So there might not be dealing with like second graders, they might be dealing with the people who help second graders. So it's we do all kinds of things.
Yeah. That's really cool. So for somebody that is trying to get into tapping into their creative side, how do they get involved in this nonprofit? Like, can Mike and I, because we're not creative, just like reach out to you and be like, hey, can you put us in some of this stuff?
Heck yeah.
Let's do it.
Do it. Come to SIPSI. Florida Creativity in March in Sarasota. Like, that's going to be lovely because Sarasota in March is lovely. It's like a weekend long conference. The SIPSI in June, those are open to the public. Anybody can register. You just you register, you pay your fees, and you come. Pro tip, if you're coming to SIPSI, stay on campus because we program 7 a.m. to midnight.
Wow.
There is literally something going on all of the time.
Now, where can someone follow you guys?
We are creativeeducationfoundation.org.
Okay.
That is our email. I think that's our Facebook also. Hi, I'm the worst. EF. I think it's Creative Education Foundation on Facebook. Instagram, I think, is CEF_CPSI.
Okay.
Twitter. think
CEF, what?
CEF on Twitter also. Creative.
You said the Instagram was CEF _
CPSI. And then Twitter were _ creative ed.
Okay.
Perfect.
And I'm Betty Creative on TikTok. So
Betty Creative. What type of content do you post on there? Do you post like?
I'm not very often posting, but I'll do tools. So, like I did an empathy map on TikTok. I did another thing we have. It's probably the best thing ever. It's phrasing your challenges as questions, because questions invite forward movement, and otherwise you're just bitching.
Ooh, I like that. That's really cool.
That's
It's a good phrase.
that's accurate.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
I
So,
feel
like,
like
you know, if you're I hate how much I weigh. Middle-aged woman. This is something that I have said. Instead, you turn it into a question. What might be all of the ways I could get more exercise?
Sure.
And then it's a cognitive hack, because I bet you're thinking of ways that I can get more exercise. You can't help not trying to answer questions. So phrase your challenges as questions, and you'll start dealing with them differently.
I feel like having that type of content on TikTok or something that's so quickly, readily available would change a lot of people's lives, because everyone's looking for that 1 minute answer to their problems to become more like trying to understand what's going on with their life. I feel like that would be just such a great way to do things.
All right, I'll do more TikToks.
All right, yeah, do more TikToks, please.
Be like, this TikTok is dedicated to Buffalo Happy.
Perfect. That sounds great.
We would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll share it for sure. So anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't yet? Because I mean, I feel like you can go down a ton of rabbit holes, because your whole nonprofit is such a great way to facilitate more creative thinking. But is there anything else that we didn't touch on that is critical to your nonprofit? Can people volunteer for it?
Yes. We have so the conferences, they're huge. Like SIPSI has 22 sessions going on at the same time.
Wow.
We've got programming from 8 years old to it's none of your business how old I am. like we people in their 80s come. Yeah. So we've got program for all different kinds. The conferences, my volunteers, they're called the Wings because we're in Buffalo.
Sure.
So they're Wings. Also, they fly to your service, and I'm looking for volunteers. It's exhausting. It's the hardest 2 weeks you'll ever love. There are 4 rules for the Wings. They tend to be college age, because that's who usually has 2 free weeks in June. So we have don't do anything that gets you sent to jail.
There you go.
Don't do anything that gets you sent to the hospital. Now, I got a question like, we shouldn't tell you. I'm like, no, I want you to not get hurt. So if you look at something, you're like, I might get hurt doing this. Don't do that. We have, don't do anything that creates new SIPSI people in 9 months. And then the last one is be nice to Wings, because we are like, if we've got programming from 7 a.m. to midnight, the Wings are supporting all that. You're tired. It's easy to snap at the person next to you. And that's the last person that you should snap at. And we also tell this to the attendees. You are nice to Wings. Wings are volunteering. They're working very, very hard. Like Fitbits and Apple Watch circles are like, because they do everything. For people who've attended SIPSI for a long time, they believe strongly in something that is very real, SIPSI magic. Now, we can't make magic, but we can set the stage for magic. So the Wings do everything to set the stage so that magic can occur for other people. So we decorate all of the spaces. Last year at NU, the theme was Connect. So we made probably 20 miles of, we got those plastic file folders and made paper chains out of them and strung them through all of the trees in front of the 3 buildings.
Wow.
And yeah, it was the NU people who were not part of SIPSy. They're like, what is
What's
going
going on here? Yeah. That's awesome.
It's exhausting. It's fun. We do a lot of like, these are the things that we have. What can we make that's magical out of this? And the wings will come up with stuff. It's exhausting and it's awesome. And we require you to be, they have to be the most amazing people on the planet.
Yeah.
That's like, can you listen and follow directions? And are you fun to work with? That's what we care about. Everything else we can explain to you. But so if anybody wants to volunteer for 2 weeks, they can get themselves to NU. They need to talk to me first.
Sure. So do they just email you or something? Like how does somebody get involved with it?
I have the world's worst email address and I apologize right now. It's B Slazak, my name. So BSLAZAK at creativeeducationfoundation.org. Yeah, I was doing something this week and they're like purchasing something and for work, and I put my email address and they're like, yeah, that's too long. Like, I know, but I can't change. You want my email address or not?
That's awesome. So if you are interested in volunteering for the nonprofit, let her know. Shoot her an email. She'll have to vet you, obviously make sure that you fit with the other wings. But it'll be greatly appreciated because the more people that we have helping out in this field, I mean, you really can't lose in helping people become more creative, which I think everybody not only can help with donating their time, but can also benefit from themselves because nobody, like you said, no one has no problems where they don't have any ability to not need to be more creative. Like everybody has that situation where they would like a different way to solve a problem. So I think that it's a good opportunity and it's a good nonprofit to get involved with because you're always going to need it.
I'm looking to see when our next trainings are.
Okay.
You can, just go on the website. Under, it's Creative Education Foundation, and then it has Learn CPS and workshops for everyone. List all of the workshops that we do, and you can see that. And then the conferences, Florida in March and SIPSy in June. I know these are my organization, like the conference from my organization, but I worked for SIPSy for years before I worked for SIPSy.
Right.
And they're just so amazing to be surrounded by people who are open to all kinds of thoughts, that are invested in being lifelong learners and are willing to enjoy themselves and laugh and have fun.
Sure. That's awesome. I really do enjoy this. So Beth, honestly, thank you so much for being on. If you haven't gone to follow them on all their social media and TikTok, because she posts on TikTok and she will be more now, but if you do go on social media, go hit them up and try to tap into that creative side because it really is something that everybody needs. So Beth, thank you so much.
Anytime. Nobody ever complains about being too creative or solving too many problems. Like, go and solve problems. And you guys have been great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Of course.
We'll have to do another one, too. Once we get closer to SIPSy, maybe we'll do another one to help promote the event. And we'll just have a good time because we'll probably be there, honestly. I mean, we need to go. This sounds like a great thing for us to be a part of because we need to be more creative.
We do.
Oh, my gosh. It is so much fun.
We do need to go.
Yeah, we will.
We will figure it out.
For sure. Next time, maybe we'll do one right before then. But thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.